Hi, I'm Nancy Radford, and I'm a mediator, coach, and trainer specializing in helping people resolve conflict. And I started doing the training and the coaching because at the end of successful mediations, I heard so many people say, "Oh, I wish we'd had this conversation 6 months or sometimes even 6 years earlier." And I thought, isn't it sad that people have gone through all that trouble and effort and pain when if they'd had a conversation early on, they could have avoided that. So that's why I want people to learn these tips about how to stop arguing and start talking. Because sometimes not talking and not listening can cause you so much pain. So, in effect, I'm trying to make myself redundant as a mediator by training you to have better conversations, not confrontations. So, let me tell you about this course that we've got. It's called Stop Arguing and Start Talking. And it's to give you everyday tips that aren't complicated but are based on research so that you can have conversations, not confrontations, about the things that are important in life. And today's session is about peace starts at home because any problem, big or small, within a family always seems to start with bad communication. Someone isn't listening. So let me tell you a little bit about the sessions. The whole series is to help you understand human emotions and reactions and to show you ways of improving your relationships through better communication. So there are 5 sessions. The first was why people argue instead of talk. The second was a few basic tools to change what we can. And this session is called Peace at Home, about making conversations at home. And then we'll look at how to make work easier. And then we'll look at how to put things right when they go wrong. So looking at the past few sessions, we learned why humans are naturally resistant and negative to change or advice, how our stories affect our own emotions and those of others. And the tools we've learned in those 2 previous sessions were pausing to take control, changing your story, reassure and catch to calm ourselves and to soothe our fears and our anger, and as well as help others to do that. And then skim to speak up or whether to stay silent. Sing is for expressing opinions safely. And luck creates constructive conversations. So you can look back on these sessions, which are all streaming through the MedInto app. What I'm going to cover today is why peace at home can be sometimes harder to achieve. And that's due to guilt and shame and the drama triangle. And then we'll look at some tools. We'll look at pause again, because this is a really important tool and so useful in the home situation. And then we'll look at how you get others to listen to you. And I'll give you a secret. It's not by nagging or speaking louder. We'll talk about the magic of listening, because this is something that I find every day in mediation. There's a real magic when you start to really listen. And then speaking in a way that makes it easy for others to listen and respond. So first of all, we need to be aware it's not just us that have arguments and problems at home, because conflict starts with unmet needs, and home is where we expect the needs to be met. So our expectations are higher. We care more about the people. So that heightens things. So it's more upsetting if your child criticizes you or your partner criticizes you than if a stranger or someone else's child criticizes you. So don't feel upset because you think everybody else has such a happy home life. It's a normal response because when you get home, you're tired, you have different needs, or you have the same needs and less resources. We don't know how to manage children. We don't get manuals for other people. We don't get objectives or aims or training. So we're all doing our best. And the thing to remember is you're being as good a parent, as good a spouse as you know how now. The other thing that makes it really difficult at home is you always have the balance, trying to find a balance between relationships and responsibilities. So to provide for your family financially, you may have to spend a lot of time away from home. Or you may feel guilty that you've taken time off to look after your kids, so you're not doing as much as you would like to at work. And this guilt and the trying to get this balance actually tears away at us. Whatever we do, working parents are torn. If they're at work, they feel guilty that they're not home to look after their kids. If they're at home, they're worried about what's happening at work. So one of the things we need to realize is there's no point worrying about what's happening unless we're going to do something about it. So I just want to talk to you a little bit about the difference between guilt and shame. So guilt can be a good thing, but shame is a bad thing. We all want what's best for our families and our partners, and we're all doing the best we can. Brené Brown is a researcher who studied relationships for many years and discovered that there are some key things. One is the difference between guilt and shame. Shame is a focus on yourself, and guilt is a focus on the behavior. Shame says, for example, let's take the example of spilling the milk here. Guilt says, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Shame says, I am a mistake. I'm so clumsy. I'm so useless. And that's the difference. And shame is looking at spilling the milk as something that reflects on you as a person. Guilt is, I did something wrong. And shame is, I am wrong. It's not just about the words, it's about the story that tells to yourself and to others. If you are a mess, if you are useless, there is nothing you can do. So you feel angry, you feel frustrated. Others feel angry and frustrated because they feel you're not doing anything. Guilt is about feeling bad about a behavior. If you feel bad about a behavior, you want to put it right. And others see that you want to put it right, that you're sorry for what you did. So that's where the difference is. It's those two stories, the story of shame and the story of guilt. Stories of shame are really linked to depression, to violence, to aggression, to all these negative emotions of losing control. Guilt, on the other hand, is linked to atonement, to making things right, to connection. And so what you really need to think about when something goes wrong or when someone does something wrong, focus on the behavior, not on the person, because that's what can be changed. So guilt moves you forward, shame keeps you stuck. So try and differentiate between your guilt and your shame. Try and move forward. And in section 5, we'll look at some tools for moving forward. One of the most common and least helpful stories in conflict is what a chap called Carpman called the drama triangle. And it's because in conflicts, we all take on a variety of roles, and we describe other people in our minds as having other roles. So, for example, when we're hurt, we look for someone to blame and we look for someone to rescue us. So we look for a persecutor. It's your fault I missed the train. So then the same person can be the persecutor and the rescuer. You need to give me a lift to the station more often. Yeah. I'm the victim here. I couldn't do anything. Yeah. And the other person sees you as the persecutor. Why are you making it my fault? It's not my thing. You could have got the bus. You should have reminded me. And that kind of conversation goes absolutely nowhere because you're so busy blaming the other person, and this other person is so blaming you, you can't move forward. And even if you have someone who swoops down to the rescue and says, it's all right, I'll take you to the station, you're taking the power away. So if we see ourselves as victims, blaming other people for persecuting us and waiting to be rescued, we lose control of the situation. We give away our responsibility. We just become a blob. Yeah. And in some ways, it's quite nice to be rescued. But in other ways, they might rescue you in a way you didn't want to. If we blame others, we take on the persecutor role. And in all cases, we get trapped. And this happens often in families, that someone is seen, mom is the one that always sorts things out. So we don't have to make the effort to manage our own disagreements because we'll ask mom and mom will sort us out. But we never learn then. So in families, be careful of these roles and think about people as people, not giving them labels. So again, focus on the behavior, not on the person. So let's just revisit the power of the pause. Between stimulus and response, there's a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and freedom. So what does that mean? It means that if you say something that I feel angry about, I need to stop and say, what is it? What is the story I'm telling myself that makes me angry? Is it because I think you don't respect me? Or is it because I want you to understand me? And then think, is anger going to make you respect me? Is sadness going to make you connect with me? So having that pause about what we want to do is really, really helpful. I just want to tell you a little bit about the magic of listening, because listening has the quality of a wizard's alchemy. It has the power to melt armor and to produce beauty in the midst of hatred. And people start to heal the moment they feel heard. If you're really angry and resentful, you won't be able to listen properly. So things go round and round. And if the other person's angry, they won't be able to listen properly. So how can you listen? Find someone to listen. Maybe you need to find a good friend or a coach or someone that can listen to you enough until you calm down. And if you haven't got someone, perhaps sitting in a chair and listening to your own feelings or writing them down can help. And research shows that once a person feels heard and understood, they feel better, even if nothing has changed. And this is also true for physical pain. If someone feels that someone understands their pain, the pain is actually lessened, even if nothing physical has been done. And the most important thing is that we need to be understood. We need someone to be able to listen to us and to understand us. Then we actually suffer less. So listening to yourself and acknowledging your own emotions is a great way of calming down, of having that magic of listening, even if there isn't someone else listening to you. So how do we get people to listen to us? The problem is, as I said before, you need to listen to them first and understand what their fears and drivers are. Because until they feel heard, they can't think clearly and they can't listen to us. So active listening is key to magic. You need to listen so well that people can hear themselves until they feel safe and respected. And this will switch on the logical bit of their mind. So you need to start with respecting them. You need to be clear about what's in it for them. You need to ask permission and look for common ground. Look for what you agree on first. If there's 16 things you agree on and one you don't start with the one you disagree on, because people's defenses go up. Speak in a way that makes it easy to listen. Don't jump in with accusations and blame and what you want. Speak tentatively and take time. Keep listening and responding positively. So how is it that we can listen better? And I love this Chinese character for listening, because it's actually made up of a lot of other characters. Obviously, ears are a big part of your listening, but not just to the words, also to the tone of voice, to the silences. And the maximum, it takes a lot of concentration. Yeah. And you need to be your undivided attention. If you're listening and trying to look at your emails at the same time, you're not listening. Yeah. Switching between tasks takes up a whole lot more energy. Use your eyes, look at the body language, the emotions, and their face. The king symbol is to remember what's really important and to focus on the other person. And the heart is to be open-hearted. Don't judge, just listen. And I like to say there's a magic tool for listening: mindfulness. Put away your phone, turn to face the person, give them your full attention. If you're trying to do anything else at this time, you aren't really listening. Acknowledge and accept. Don't listen with a view to providing solutions or listen to try and make them feel different. You're listening to how they feel. Accept that their views and their feelings, however wrong or unjustified you think they are their feelings. They have a right to those. Don't judge. Give them time, give them tolerance. Don't start thinking of how you're going to fix things. Just listen. If your mind starts to wander, imagine you have to repeat their speech to another audience. It helps you concentrate. An interest, showing you're listening. It might be asking open questions, just statements like, tell me more. And then check your understanding. Don't make assumptions. Make it okay for them to say, no, that's not what I meant at all. So say, I really want to understand you correctly. Can you explain to me what caused you to feel that way? Try not to use the word why, because why is often seen as a kind of, why should you do that? You know, a sort of a judgment. So asking, what made you feel that way? What else do you need to tell me? Are great questions for listening. We all want to be nice, but sometimes, just listening to other people all the time, and like the kids, I need to set limits. And generally, givers need to set limits because takers rarely do. And if you don't express your needs, they won't be met. And then you'll feel angry or upset or become ill. So we need to remember that when we fail to set boundaries and hold people accountable, we feel used and mistreated. So it's important to learn how to express our needs as well as listen to those of others. So when you're setting boundaries or expressing your needs, you need to specify what's acceptable and what isn't. We don't know what the other person doesn't know. So look a bit deeper and get your story straight. Make it safe, make it clear, and follow through. Let's look at these 4 parts in a bit more detail. So just as here, we know there's a man behind there, but someone looking wouldn't see that until they look deeper. And then you can see, reflect, what is it that I actually want? What is it that the other person might want? Get my story straight, get my ideas. Do I have the right information? What is it I really want? And what do I need to know? And what happens if I don't get what I want? And who else could provide it? Make it safe. If the other person doesn't feel safe, it's difficult to resolve issues. If you don't feel safe, if you feel hungry or thirsty or tired, it's not going to be a good conversation. And the same with the other person. So ask permission. Say, is this a good time? I really want to talk about this because I want to have a good relationship with you. Listen and observe their reaction. If it's not a good time, schedule another time. And don't jump to conclusions. Try and think of what might be their reason for behaving the way they have. And then make it quite clear. What's clear to you is not always clear to the other person. So check your understanding of what they think about the situation. Be respectful but candid and suggest what you could do. So make it clear what you're prepared to do and ask, what is it that you want me to do? And what I'd really like you to do if you could. Yeah? Ask, don't demand. And sometimes you need to bring in a third party if both people find it really hard to listen to each other. Sometimes a third party, like a mediator or coach, can act as that go-between, can clarify issues for everybody just by asking questions and reframing things. And then agree a way forward. Don't just leave it because you may be understood, but what happens if someone forgets? Agree what will happen and how you'll handle it if things break down, because we're all human and things do go wrong. So say, if this happens, what will we do? We'll have another discussion, or actually we'll write it down. It doesn't matter, but put the focus on making sure it works and how you'll manage it. So if someone does step over the line, don't wait till they've stepped over the line 6 times. The first time, just say, remember, we agreed, and this has really upset me that you haven't done that. How can we make sure that it does happen in future? And maybe you need to change it slightly. So if you say that if someone does something and these are the consequences, be sure that you follow through. Don't say consequences that you're never going to put in. So follow through and make sure people understand why you're putting these consequences in place. So I just want to show you a quick video. I'm just going to. So this is a video that just shows you how powerful what people see and do is on other people.
It looks like rain again today. Dark clouds gather and fill the sky. Don't know how to talk to you, just know how to say goodbye. Go back where you came from. Go back where you came from.
So that was just a reminder that kids do what they see, and actually grown-ups do too. If you treat someone with respect, they're likely to treat you with respect, and actions speak louder than words. So focus on understanding each other. Tell people you love them and you care for them. People don't know what you don't tell them. And even if you think, they know I love them, they know I care, we don't. We're all very insecure and we need reassurance. Make that time to talk and explain the whys behind the boundaries, behind your needs. So looking back on what we learned today was we learned why home can be harder, the guilt and the shame and the important difference between guilt and shame, why we don't want to get stuck in that drama triangle. We learned about pause and getting others to listen to you. We learned about the magic of listening and speaking so that others listen. What next? If you found this talk useful, be sure to watch the rest of the series to learn more. And if you want one-to-one sessions with me, you can book these on the Med-In2 app. Thanks for your attention. The next session of Stop Arguing and Start Talking is called Make Work Easier, because the health of any relationship, team, or organization can be measured by the lag time between identifying and discussing problems. So thank you very much, and I look forward to